In the heart of Accra, amid the vibrant buzz of the city and the echo of ancient tales, lived Amma, a young woman whose faith in happily ever after had long since faded. Every morning, as the golden sun crept over the bustling market stalls and the rhythmic calls of street vendors filled the air, Amma couldn't help but wonder if true love was merely a relic of old folktales. Her modest apartment, inherited from her wise grandmother, was filled with the soft murmur of ancestral voices, urging her to remain hopeful even after countless disappointments. Despite the scars left by past betrayals, Amma's gentle heart still longed for a connection that transcended the mundane hardships of everyday life. One ordinary day, while hurrying to the community center for a local storytelling session, fate intervened. A humble rideshare car pulled up outside her weathered building, its driver, a kind-faced young man named Kofi, waving with a smile that radiated sincere warmth. As Amma climbed into the car, the subtle fragrance of spiced tea and fresh earth mingled with the hum of the busy city, and for a fleeting moment, she felt as if destiny itself had taken the wheel. That brief encounter stirred something dormant within her, a spark of hope reminiscent of the timeless legends her grandmother once recited by candlelight. Little did she know, this unassuming ride would be the opening chapter in a story that would challenge everything she believed about love, loyalty, and the true cost of compassion. Over the next few weeks, Amma found herself eagerly awaiting Kofi's arrival. Every ride became a small ritual, a shared journey through the lively streets of Accra, where the mundane transformed into magic through their conversations. Kofi, with his unpretentious charm and stories of life's struggles, recounted tales of eviction notices, unpaid bills, and the relentless pursuit of dignity in a world that often overlooked the humble. He spoke in a soft, measured tone, his words carrying the weight of hardship yet laced with the humor of someone who refused to be defeated. Amma, he would say, in this city of endless noise, sometimes a kind word or a small kindness is the only treasure we have. His sincerity touched her deeply, and despite her past wounds, Amma began to believe that maybe, just maybe, love could bloom even in the harshest of circumstances. Their conversations flowed as easily as the warm evening breezes along Jamestown's ancient streets, and every shared laugh, every compassionate gesture seemed to stitch together the frayed edges of her heart. In return, Amma offered him not only her company but also a part of her meager savings when his burdens grew too heavy to bear alone. With every late-night coffee shared at tiny roadside cafes and every thoughtful exchange, a tender bond formed, one that promised a reprieve from loneliness even as the distant echoes of old proverbs warned her that every gift sometimes came with a hidden price. As the monsoon rains washed the city streets and the scent of wet earth mingled with the vibrant chatter of neighbors, Amma's newfound hope began to take root. The routine rides with Kofi turned into cherished moments that bridged the gap between everyday struggle and the promise of a better tomorrow. They navigated the narrow alleys of OSU and the crowded thoroughfares of downtown, each journey punctuated by the hum of local music and the distant call of ancient drums. In these moments, Amma's world felt reawakened, a tapestry of vivid colors, rich culture, and the tantalizing possibility of romance. Kofi's gentle optimism, despite his financial woes, became a beacon of resilience. He spoke of his dreams in hushed tones, of a future where his circumstances would transform, where his laughter would echo in halls of success, not just on the cracked sidewalks of the city. Amma listened, captivated by his vision and the earnest hope that shone in his eyes. Sometimes, he whispered during one late ride, the universe tests us with hardship so we can later embrace the riches of our own strength. His words resonated with the age-old wisdom passed down through generations in African households. Stories of overcoming adversity, of finding light in darkness. For a time, Amma's heart began to mend, buoyed by the belief that their connection was more than a fleeting moment. It was the beginning of a narrative written in destiny's own hand. Yet, even as she savored these moments, a subtle dissonance lay just beneath the surface, hinting at secrets that would soon shatter the delicate illusion of trust. One crisp afternoon, when the sun hung low and the shadows of ancient baobab trees danced on the streets, Amma ventured to the local bank to settle a few routine matters. The building, a modern structure juxtaposed against the city's historic architecture, buzzed with activity and the muted rhythm of business. As she waited in the lobby, her mind wandered back to her recent rides with Kofi and the gentle solace he had brought to her weary heart. Lost in thought, she glanced toward a large digital screen mounted on the wall, a screen that displayed various bank updates and customer information. To her utter disbelief, there he was, Kofi, but not as she had ever seen him before. Dressed in a sharp suit, his eyes focused and his demeanor composed, he sat in the exclusive VIP lounge. The transformation was staggering. In that moment, the humble driver with a heart full of dreams seemed to vanish, replaced by a man whose every gesture exuded power and affluence. Amma's pulse quickened, and a surge of confusion gripped her. How could the man who spoke of eviction and scraped by on modest fares suddenly command the aura of a wealthy professional? The digital ticker flashed figures that defied her understanding. Numbers that painted a picture of wealth unimaginable for someone living on the fringes of society. In that silent, heavy-laden moment, the delicate tapestry of their budding love began to unravel. Questions whirled in her mind like the dust in the warm afternoon light. Had he inherited a fortune overnight? Or was there another secret, hidden behind the humble facade he had carefully cultivated? The discrepancy between his words and this newfound image struck Amma with the force of a sudden storm, leaving her heart trembling with uncertainty and a foreboding sense of impending betrayal. That night, the city of Accra wore a cloak of shimmering lights and whispered promises under the starry sky. Amma, unable to shake off the disquiet stirred by the bank encounter, found herself wandering along quiet streets lined with flickering lampposts and the distant hum of life continuing unabated. The familiar sounds of night markets and soft conversations in open courtyards did little to soothe her racing thoughts. With each step, she replayed the images of the day, the stark contrast between the Kofi she knew and the enigmatic figure she had witnessed in the bank's VIP lounge. The ancient voices of her ancestors, echoing from the carved wooden figures in her home, seemed to murmur warnings of hidden truths. "Not all that glitters is gold," they whispered, their age-old wisdom echoing in the recesses of her mind. Determined to confront the mounting mystery, Amma resolved to seek answers under the pale glow of a lone streetlight near the busy junction of her neighborhood. The night air was heavy with humidity and anticipation as she made her way to the spot where fate had arranged their next encounter. Every step felt like a march toward an uncertain destiny, a confrontation that promised to expose secrets long hidden beneath layers of charming deceit. The cool breeze offered little comfort as the specter of betrayal loomed larger in her heart, and with a deep, steadying breath she prepared herself for the truth regardless of how painful it might be. Beneath the muted glow of a flickering street lamp, Amma finally found Kofi waiting, his eyes shadowed by a mix of regret and determination. The street, usually filled with the lively banter of late-night vendors and the soft murmur of passing cars, now seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what was about to unfold. "Kofi," Amma began, her voice trembling with a cocktail of anger and sorrow. "Who are you really? The man I know or someone else entirely?" Her words cut through the humid night air, laden with the raw emotion of a heart betrayed. For a moment, Kofi's features betrayed no hint of the charm and gentle humor that had once captivated her. Instead, his gaze dropped and he reached slowly into his pocket, withdrawing a neatly folded piece of paper. In that charged silence, the distant sounds of the city, an occasional car horn, the murmur of a late-night conversation seemed to fade away, leaving only the heavy pulse of the moment. With a shaky hand, he extended the paper toward her as if offering it as an explanation, a key to unlock the mysteries that had begun to suffocate their once tender bond. Amma's eyes, wide with dread and disbelief, followed the paper's movement, and in that instant a chill ran down her spine. There was no trembling voice or feeble excuse, only the quiet, measured click of paper unfolding under the weight of destiny. The street lamp cast eerie shadows on his face, making the truth seem both surreal and inevitable. Every second stretched into an eternity as Amma reached out and took the paper, her fingers brushing against his in a final, silent farewell to the illusion of love she had so desperately clung to. As Amma unfolded the delicate sheet, the harsh glare of the streetlight revealed words and signatures that blurred the line between truth and deception. Staring back at her was a forged marriage certificate printed on fine paper and adorned with official seals that should have belonged to a union built on love and trust. Instead, the document was a meticulously crafted trap, a piece of evidence that shattered the fragile hope she had so carefully nurtured. The ink, though neat and precise, seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, a reminder that behind every act of kindness can lie a hidden agenda. How could you do this? Amma whispered, her voice cracking as tears welled in her eyes. The paper trembled in her grasp, and in that moment every late-night coffee, every whispered promise, and every shared secret turned to ash. Kofi's face, once filled with warmth and promise, now revealed a cold, calculating resolve. He confessed, in a tone devoid of the compassion that had once charmed her, that the hardship he had so vividly painted was nothing more than an elaborate ruse. His words spilled out in a confession that was as painful as it was revelatory. He had forged the marriage certificate, using her trust and her signature as the final seal on a con that stretched far deeper than she could have ever imagined. I needed you, he said, his voice flat, to gain your confidence, to access the doors that were closed to me. Love was my disguise, and your kindness was the key. In that devastating instant, the world around Amma blurred, the familiar streets of Accra and the comforting cadence of ancestral wisdom faded into a haunting silence. Her heart, once buoyed by hope, now sank under the crushing weight of betrayal, leaving her to grapple with the realization that the love she had believed in was nothing more than an intricate lie. In the days that followed the revelation, Amma's once vibrant world dimmed under the shadow of betrayal. The taste of bitterness mingled with the humid air, and every corner of the city seemed to whisper of deceit. Friends who had once listened to her joyful recounting of Kofi's gentle nature now shared worried glances, their voices hushed with disbelief as they learned of the forged document. The community, tightly knit by shared struggles and ancient traditions, rallied around her, their empathy steeped in the wisdom of elders who had witnessed many such deceptions in times long past. In every lie there is a lesson, an old matriarch advised as she patted Amma's hand in the warmth of the village courtyard. Yet the lesson felt too bitter, too raw to soothe the sting of her shattered trust. In quiet moments, Amma replayed every conversation, every kind word, searching for the faintest hint of deception that might have foretold this treachery. The image of Kofi, now transformed from a symbol of hope to an embodiment of cunning manipulation, haunted her waking hours and invaded her dreams. Her mind, once a sanctuary of hopeful memories, became a battleground where love and betrayal fought for dominance. The forged marriage certificate lay on her bedside table, a constant, unyielding reminder that sometimes even the purest of hearts can be ensnared by the web of calculated lies. In the solitude of her modest home, she vowed to uncover every hidden detail of his scheme, determined to reclaim her dignity and restore her faith in justice, even if it meant venturing into a labyrinth of secrets and legal battles that threatened to consume her. That fateful night, under a moon that cast long, distorted shadows across the quiet streets of Accra, Amma's heart pounded with a mixture of anger and resolve. The weight of the forged document pressed upon her like a curse, and she knew that silence would only serve to empower the man who had betrayed her trust. I will not let this lie define me, she declared softly to herself as she stared out of her window at the city that had once cradled her dreams. Determined to confront the truth head-on, Amma began gathering evidence, meticulously reviewing every detail of her conversations with Kofi, every receipt and message that could unravel the carefully spun web of deceit. In the hushed hours of the early morning, as the city lay in slumber, she met with an old friend who was known for his unwavering sense of justice and keen legal mind. Over cups of strong, locally brewed coffee and in the dim light of a small, cluttered room, they pored over the documents and pieced together a timeline that revealed gaps and inconsistencies. He played us like a chord on his kora, her friend murmured, a bitter smile crossing his weathered face as he compared Kofi's actions to a masterful yet malevolent musician. Together, they formulated a plan to expose the truth and ensure that Kofi's deceit would not go unanswered. Every detail, every whispered conversation became a stepping stone toward reclaiming the honor that had been so callously stolen. In that fragile moment, as the first rays of dawn began to touch the horizon, Amma felt the stirring of a fierce determination, a resolve to turn her pain into a force that would bring justice, no matter how steep the cost. The scandal began to ripple through the tight-knit community like a sudden storm over the savannah. Word of Amma's confrontation and the treacherous document spread rapidly, carried on the lips of market vendors, churchgoers, and even the street storytellers who knew how to weave modern tragedies into epic folktales. At the local community center, where elders and youths alike gathered to share wisdom and life's ups and downs, a hushed murmur of outrage filled the air. How can one hide behind the mask of poverty when riches lie behind those eyes? An elder lamented during a heated discussion, his voice heavy with both sorrow and indignation. The revelation struck a deep chord in a society that prided itself on communal support and moral rectitude. Amma, despite her own heartbreak, found solace in the solidarity of those who had once seen her as a quiet soul lost in the rush of life. In a public gathering held in a modest town hall adorned with colorful Kent cloth and the rhythmic beat of traditional drums, she recounted her experience with a tremor of both anguish and resolve. Her words, simple yet laden with raw emotion, resonated with the audience as she detailed how the man she had trusted had manipulated her kindness for his own gain. Love, she declared, her voice cracking with determination, should never be a tool for deceit. It is a sacred bond that must be guarded, not exploited. The room erupted in murmurs of agreement and calls for accountability. In that moment, the ancient spirit of justice, deeply rooted in the traditions of their ancestors, seemed to awaken. Amma's painful journey was no longer just a personal betrayal, it had become a clarion call for everyone to stand against injustice, to ensure that no one's heart would be used as a pawn in a game of greed and manipulation. In the aftermath of the public revelation, Amma's world transformed from a place of quiet despair into a battlefield where truth and justice clashed with deception and greed. The once gentle hum of everyday life in Accra now carried the electric charge of retribution as neighbors, friends, and even distant relatives rallied behind her. Local newspapers picked up the story, painting a vivid portrait of a cunning con artist who had masqueraded as a humble rideshare driver while orchestrating a far-reaching scheme of deceit. The headlines spoke in bold, unapologetic tones: when love becomes a lie and the mask of kindness, a betrayal unveiled. Amid the clamor, Amma found herself the reluctant heroine of a modern folktale, a story that blended the ancient wisdom of her ancestors with the harsh realities of contemporary urban life. In hushed conversations over meals of jollof rice and fufu, elders recounted similar tales from years gone by, where deceit and treachery had once threatened the harmony of community life. "We must learn from these stories," an elderly woman advised, her eyes glistening with unshed tears and fierce resolve. "For every act of betrayal leaves behind a lesson carved into our history." As the community's support swelled, Amma began to document every detail of her ordeal, preserving her narrative as both a warning and a call to action. The pain was deep, yet within it lay the seeds of transformation, a determination to ensure that no other soul would fall prey to such heartless manipulation. With each passing day, her resolve hardened into a steely determination, and plans for legal action and public redress took shape, promising that the man who had used her kindness as a weapon would soon face the consequences of his actions. Under the relentless African sun and the ceaseless pulse of city life, Amma embarked on a long and arduous journey toward reclaiming her stolen dignity. Days turned into weeks as she met with legal advisors, community elders, and friends who shared their own tales of hardship and triumph. In a small office tucked away in a busy district, she sat with a determined lawyer whose passion for justice burned as fiercely as the midday heat. "We will expose every lie," he promised, his voice resolute as he outlined a strategy to dismantle Kofi's carefully constructed facade. Together, they pored over bank statements, recorded conversations, and even social media messages that painted a portrait of a man living a double life. Every document, every whispered memory from a witness, became a piece of the puzzle that would ultimately reveal the full extent of Kofi's deception. Meanwhile, the community's support grew into a force that transcended mere gossip. It became a movement rooted in the timeless traditions of accountability and retribution. At local gatherings, the story of the rideshare driver's treachery was recounted with passion and fervor, serving as a stark reminder that even the kindest souls could be exploited if their trust was misplaced. "The scales of justice must balance," an impassioned youth declared at a community meeting, his words echoing the ancient proverbs passed down through generations. Amma, though battered by the betrayal, found strength in these voices. In every shared story, every word of encouragement, she discovered the resilience to continue her fight. The legal battle promised to be long and fraught with challenges, yet every step forward was a step toward reclaiming not only her own honor but also the collective integrity of a community that refused to be manipulated by greed and false promises. As the legal proceedings gathered momentum, the intricate web of Kofi's lies began to unravel in unexpected ways. Evidence emerged that painted a starkly different picture of the man Amma had once trusted, a man who had skillfully played the role of a humble, suffering rideshare driver while secretly amassing wealth and connections in high places. Courtroom sessions, held in a stately building that resonated with the echoes of justice, became the stage upon which the drama of deceit was publicly laid bare. Amma, standing before judges and an audience of community members, recounted her story with a blend of raw emotion and unwavering determination. I gave my heart freely, she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor of hurt underlying each word, and it was used against me as a tool for greed and manipulation. The evidence was damning, a series of transactions, forged documents, and testimonies that revealed how Kofi had exploited her empathy. Witnesses came forward, sharing their own encounters with the man who had, until now, remained shrouded in an aura of false modesty. One witness, a former colleague of Kofi's from a prestigious financial institution, revealed in a hushed tone, he was never the man he pretended to be. He was always orchestrating something far more sinister. Each revelation struck the courtroom like a drumbeat from the past, resonating with the ancient rhythms of justice and retribution that had guided generations before them. Amidst the stern gavel strikes and the measured cadence of legal testimony, Amma's story became a powerful symbol of resilience, a modern parable that bridged the gap between old-world wisdom and the contemporary struggle for truth. The courtroom drama, unfolding with every detail meticulously laid out, left no doubt that the scales of justice were beginning to tip in favor of the betrayed. In the weeks that followed the courtroom revelations, the city streets buzzed with the aftershocks of Kofi's exposed deception. The once quiet hum of daily life in Accra transformed into a vibrant chorus of voices demanding accountability and change. Social media platforms, teeming with impassioned posts and heartfelt comments, became virtual town squares where the community rallied around Amma's quest for justice. In these digital spaces, her story spread like wildfire, a modern saga intertwined with the rich tapestry of African oral tradition. "Let this be a lesson," one comment read, echoing the timeless wisdom of elders, "trust must be earned and deceit shall never prosper." At local gatherings, the story was retold with fervor, each narrator adding their own unique twist while preserving the core message of resilience and retribution. For many, Amma's journey was more than just a personal battle, it became a symbol of collective strength in the face of exploitation. Elders recalled tales of old where cunning tricksters were eventually unmasked by the unyielding spirit of community justice. "Our ancestors fought against false kings and charlatans," an elderly man proclaimed during a community forum, his eyes gleaming with the fire of remembered battles. "Today we stand together to ensure that no one's heart is used as a pawn." Despite the bitterness of betrayal, Amma began to see the seeds of a new beginning. With each passing day, her resolve to restore her honor grew stronger, and the prospect of turning her painful experience into a catalyst for positive change emerged as a beacon of hope in a city that had long witnessed the rise and fall of many such tales. As the legal battle advanced and the public scrutiny deepened, Amma found herself at a crossroads, a juncture where pain met purpose and betrayal fueled the drive for transformation. Late one evening, while sitting in a modest living room adorned with photographs of her ancestors and mementos of a simpler time, she contemplated the long road ahead. The soft glow of a kerosene lamp illuminated her determined face as she pored over the evidence and legal documents that chronicled Kofi's elaborate deception. "I will not let this darkness define my future," she whispered, her voice resolute and steady despite the lingering tremors of heartbreak. In that quiet moment, the ancient drumbeats of her heritage seemed to echo through the room, urging her to stand tall and reclaim her narrative. Friends and allies gathered around, sharing in both her grief and her fierce determination for justice. Conversations sparked ideas of organizing community workshops where stories of resilience could be shared to empower others against similar deceptions. "Your struggle is our struggle," one close friend affirmed during an intimate gathering, her words carrying the weight of collective experience. "We will rebuild, and we will ensure that no one else is made a victim of such calculated betrayal." As the months passed, the seeds of Amma's resolve blossomed into plans for a public comeback, a dramatic return that would not only expose Kofi's treachery but also serve as a rallying cry for the downtrodden. With every step forward, she began to see her own pain transformed into a powerful tool, a force capable of igniting change in a society that thrived on community and shared responsibility. The darkness of deception would soon give way to the light of truth, and Amma's story was poised to inspire a new chapter of justice and redemption in the annals of her city's history. In a climactic turn of events that echoed the timeless cycles of retribution in African folktales, Amma prepared for her grand public confrontation, a moment that would mark the definitive turning point in her battle against deceit. The day arrived with the fierce, blazing sun overhead as the community gathered in a bustling town square draped with vibrant banners and the rhythmic pulse of traditional drumming. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, every face in the crowd shone with a mix of sorrow for the betrayal and hope for the justice that was about to be served. Standing on a makeshift stage, Amma's eyes glistened with unshed tears and unwavering determination as she held the forged marriage certificate aloft, a tangible symbol of the betrayal that had upended her life. "I stand before you today," she proclaimed, her voice echoing over the murmurs of the crowd, not as a victim of deceit, but as a warrior for truth. Love should heal, not harm, trust should empower, not imprison. The square fell silent as her words reverberated against the ancient walls of nearby colonial-era buildings, mingling with the age-old wisdom that had guided countless generations. In that charged moment, every listener recalled the old proverbs of their forefathers. Stories of valor and the ultimate downfall of tricksters and false friends. Among the crowd, murmurs of agreement swelled into resounding cheers, as people declared their solidarity with Amma's cause. The dramatic unveiling of the evidence against Kofi, meticulously compiled over months of relentless pursuit of truth, left no room for doubt. The man who had once beguiled them with his false humility was now exposed as a master manipulator. The air was thick with the promise of karma, a powerful force that, as the elders always said, would ultimately restore balance and justice to those who had been wronged. In the days that followed the explosive public confrontation, the momentum of Amma's crusade for justice swept through the city like a cleansing wind. The legal proceedings gained national attention, with local news channels and online platforms broadcasting every dramatic detail of the trial. Amid the cacophony of public opinion and heated debates, Amma remained steadfast in her pursuit of accountability. She traveled from one neighborhood to another, sharing her story with anyone who would listen. Women in crowded market stalls, youths gathered outside community centers, and elders sitting beneath ancient mango trees, each person finding in her tale a mirror of their own struggles and hopes. "We cannot allow deceit to flourish in the shadows," she declared during a televised community forum, her voice imbued with the strength of generations past. Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations about the need for transparency and moral integrity in a rapidly changing society. Social media erupted with hashtags calling for justice and reform, and the once hidden truth became a catalyst for wider debates on trust, identity, and the exploitation of vulnerability. For many, Amma's courageous stand was a reaffirmation of the age-old belief that truth, no matter how deeply buried, would always find its way to the light. Yet, even as the community celebrated the unmasking of Kofi's lies, a lingering question remained in the hearts of those who had been touched by her journey. Would the forces of darkness ever truly be vanquished, or would they merely morph into new forms? In the face of this uncertainty, Amma's resolute spirit shone as a beacon of hope, a reminder that the pursuit of justice was an unending journey, one that required constant vigilance, unwavering determination, and the unbreakable bonds of community solidarity. As the trial reached its crescendo and the final verdict loomed, a palpable shift swept through the city, a shift that bore the unmistakable scent of both retribution and redemption. Amma's unwavering resolve had not only forced Kofi's meticulously crafted lies into the harsh light of day, but had also ignited a wave of introspection across the community. In a dramatic courtroom climax, the evidence was laid out with precision: bank records, forged signatures, and testimonies from unexpected witnesses who had once been deceived by the man's charm. "You have taken advantage of our trust," Amma declared before the judge, her voice echoing with the authority of one who had been wronged but refused to be broken. The judge, a figure both stern and fair, delivered a verdict that sent ripples of justice throughout the courtroom and far beyond its marble walls. Kofi was held accountable for his crimes, his fate sealed by the very evidence he had hoped would remain hidden. Outside, the city erupted in a mixture of relief and celebration as people took to the streets to express their vindication. The trial had become more than a legal battle, it was a symbolic reckoning for a society determined to reclaim its dignity and honor. In hushed conversations at local cafes and lively debates in bustling markets, the message was clear: those who exploited the kindness of others would not escape the long arm of justice. For Amma, the verdict was a bittersweet victory, a moment of personal redemption woven into the collective triumph of a community that had risen against deception and abuse. In the wake of Kofi's conviction, Amma began the slow, healing process of reclaiming her life and rebuilding her spirit. The journey ahead was marked by moments of quiet reflection and bursts of renewed purpose. In her modest home, where the memories of both sorrow and hope mingled, she found solace in revisiting the cherished stories of her grandmother, tales of hardship, resilience, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. Community celebrations became the backdrop to her gradual transformation, as neighbors organized gatherings where old wounds were healed through shared laughter and heartfelt music. Today, we celebrate not just the fall of a deceiver, but the rise of our own strength, an elder declared at one such festival, his voice rich with the weight of tradition and the promise of a brighter future. With each passing day, Amma learned to see her pain as a stepping stone, a lesson that every trial, no matter how devastating, carried within it the seeds of a profound comeback. The legal victory, though bittersweet, became a rallying cry for others who had been scarred by betrayal. Her journey transformed into a beacon of hope, inspiring countless others to stand against injustice and reclaim their own narratives. In the quiet aftermath, as she walked along the familiar streets of her neighborhood, the whispers of her story mingled with the gentle hum of everyday life, serving as a timeless reminder that even in the face of treachery, one's inner light could never be extinguished. In the final, triumphant chapter of her tale, a chapter that resonated like the concluding notes of an ancient kora melody, Amma stood tall, her spirit unbowed and her heart full of hard-earned wisdom. At a grand community gathering beneath a starlit African sky, she addressed the crowd, her voice both gentle and resolute. "My journey," she said, eyes glistening with both tears and determination, "taught me that even the deepest betrayal can forge the strongest resolve. Let my story be a lesson. Trust must be guarded, and when darkness threatens, let your inner light guide you to justice." The audience erupted in heartfelt applause, and for a moment, the collective energy of the people felt as if it could move mountains. Amma's comeback was not just a personal victory. It was a call to action for every heart that had ever been deceived or wounded. In that moment, the spirit of ancient justice mingled with modern courage, crafting a narrative that would be recounted for generations to come. As the evening drew to a close, viewers and listeners were urged to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the story with friends, and leave their perspectives or lessons learned in the comments. This was more than a story. It was a movement, a modern folktale born from pain and nurtured by the unyielding belief that truth, when embraced by community, always prevails.